Just a warning, I say the word corrupt and corruption in this video a lot. In the beginning, there was light and there was void. These two cosmic forces would combat for eons, but in one battle, the two clashed and miraculously created the universe, while fragments of the light would go off and spark life throughout the great dark beyond. The void would manifest creatures of its own. These creatures were known as the Void Lords, beings of unimaginable power and corruption that can't even manifest in the physical universe. Well, they technically can, but only for a very limited time, and not at their full power. The Void Lords wish for only one thing: the corruption of everything. They did try to corrupt the Titans, cosmic beings made up of fabrics of the universe, but they turned out to be immune. So the Void Lords came up with the plan to corrupt worlds, as many worlds had world souls, which are nascent titans. The Void Lords, however, didn't have a way of telling which worlds had souls, so they devised the brilliant scheme to just throw parts of themselves onto random planets, and hope they struck one with a titan. These bits of lords are what we know as Old Gods, and some of them landed on Azeroth, who is said to be the most potentially powerful titan. These Old Gods were Yasharaj.
You should kill them all. You must kill them all.
Cthulhu,
Death is close.
Yogg-Saron,
Your will is no longer your own.
and Azoth.
This is the empire I have built. Past, present, future.
These four would form the great civilization known as the Black Empire. Prior to the Old Gods' arrival, the elemental lords Ragnaros the Fire Lord, Therazane the Stone Mother, Neptulon the Tide Hunter, and Alakir the Wind Lord were the dominant force on Azeroth. While usually in conflict, the elements had to unite to face this grave new threat. While they were all very powerful in their own right, the Old Gods and their insectoid army that they had produced proved to be too much for the elemental lords, and they would become as minions to them, their most powerful minions in fact. Eventually, the Titans themselves happened upon the world of Azeroth, and were shocked at how evil, powerful, and corrupt the Old Gods were. They waged war on the Old Gods and their minions in an attempt to save the nascent Titan soul inside the planet. The Titans themselves were far too large to directly battle the Old Gods, as their immense size and power could harm the planet itself. So instead, they constructed the mighty Titan Forged. To lead them, the Titans also made the Titan Keepers, the most powerful of the Titan Forged. First, they would have to deal with the Old Gods' strongest minions, the Elemental Lords. Although the battles were tough, the Titan Forge were successful and created the Elemental Plane, where each of the four Elemental Lords would be imprisoned. With the Elemental Lords defeated, the Titan Forge marched towards Yasharaj, the most powerful of the Old Gods. However, the Titans feared that their soldiers wouldn't be able to stand up to the power of the Old God, so they took matters into their own hands. Aman'Thul, leader of the Pantheon, grabbed the monstrous creature and ripped him from the surface of the planet. While this instantly killed Yasharaj, it also did massive damage to the world itself, and created the Well of Eternity, where Azeroth's blood swelled and coalesced into a great pool. This made the Titans realize that the Old Gods had rooted themselves too deep into Azeroth, and killing them could greatly damage and even kill Azeroth itself. So, the Titan Forge would instead have to imprison the Old Gods. Cthulhu would be imprisoned in Silithus, Yogg-Saron in Northrend, and Azoth somewhere in the ocean.
Hello, how are you? I am under the water. Please help me. Here too much raining.
But, while the Old Gods were imprisoned, they were not necessarily defeated. For millennia to come, they would plot, scheme, and corrupt the world as best they could. Yogg-Saron, imprisoned beneath Ulduar, began to corrupt the Forge of Wills, and in turn created the Curse of Flesh, which meant that rather than producing the powerful metallic Titan Forged, it would also produce more fragile creatures made of flesh. This would lead to the creation of many of Azeroth's inhabitants we know today, such as the dwarves, gnomes, and humans. Yogg-Saron would also manipulate the mighty Titan Keepers, in particular Lurken. I won't go into too much detail, but basically Lurken was having an affair with Sif, Thorim's wife, but she refused to leave Thorim, and in rage, he killed her. Yogg-Saron made a fake ghost of Sif, telling him that it was okay and that he should hide all of his secrets and go against the Titan Forged. So he did that, and it basically led to the fall and corruption of the Titan Forged, with civil wars and doubt and such. Another major event the Old Gods took place in was the War of the Ancients. While they did not directly partake in the battle, they did manipulate and corrupt Deathwing, who, at the time, was Neltharion behind the scenes, which resulted in the creation of the Dragon Soul, and officially making Deathwing a villain to all. Around 600 years later, Fandral Staghelm and his druids would create a new world tree in Northrend, known as Nordrassil. However, the roots of the tree bored too deep and eventually made their way to Yogg-Saron's prison. This gave the Old God the opportunity to tap into and corrupt the Emerald Dream, creating the Emerald Nightmare, which the other Old Gods could also now access and corrupt, with N'Zoth in particular gaining much interest in this plane. The War of the Shifting Sands was a great one between the Old God Cthulhu and the Night Elves. For years, Cthulhu had been creating an army of Karaji to assault Kalimdor from the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj. He launched an attack on the Night Elves, and at first, the Old God's forces were very successful. But thanks to the leadership of Fandral Staghelm and the aid of the Dragonflights, the Night Elves would come out victorious, and have the Old God and his minions imprisoned within the ruins. The Scepter of the Shifting Sands, a weapon used to seal the gates of Ahn'Qiraj, was gifted to Fandral, but he broke it out of bitterness over the loss of his son's life during the conflict. In Classic, adventurers, along with the might of Kalimdor, a force made of both Alliance and Horde, led by Saurfang, invaded the stronghold of Cthulhu and defeated the Old God. Prior to the Northrend campaign, Cho'Gall entered Ulduar and sabotaged Yogg-Saron's prison. The Old God took immediate action, and with his new power, immediately took full control of Lurken, who would forge his own army using the Forge of Wills. In dealing with Lurken, adventurers of the Horde and Alliance, along with Bran Bronzebeard, learned of the manipulation of Yogg-Saron, and they swiftly turned their attention to the Old God, pushing him back into his prison. And then after the war in Northrend, the Emerald Nightmare attacked much of Azeroth, forcing many into an endless slumber. Xavius played a large part in this corruption, but he was ultimately stopped by Malfurion and his allies, and he was imprisoned in the Rift of Aun, a small corner of the Emerald Dream. In Mists of Pandaria, the Alliance and Horde met in conflict on the continent of Pandaria, which sparked the Shah, the last remnants of Y'Shaarj, who feed off of negative emotions. The native Pandaren tried their best to teach the invaders how to deal with the Shah, but War Chief Garrosh Hellscream wouldn't listen. He continued to war and eventually uncovered the still beating heart of Y'Shaarj itself. Garrosh took the heart to the pools of the Vale of Eternal Blossoms and renewed the heart, after which he took it to his throne room. Once the heroes of the Horde and Alliance took the battle to Garrosh in Orgrimmar, he desperately embraced the power of the Old Gods, but the champions pulled through and defeated the Old God-infused Orc. Not too much happened during Legion, but we did venture into the Emerald Nightmare and defeat Xavius, which almost completely destroyed the Nightmare. We also uncovered Xal'atath, Blade of the Black Empire, a weapon that was used by the Old Gods and their forces during the days of Black Empire. In Battle for Azeroth, we find out that Mother, a Titan creation, had accidentally created another Old God, G'huun. Thankfully, it was far less powerful than the other Old Gods, and wasn't directly connected to Azeroth, so it could be outright killed. On Kulturas, N'Zoth had been working to corrupt the Tide Sages, which were like mages of the sea, and had managed to transform into the Kithia, a version of Faceless Ones. And 8.3, we finally face N'Zoth, the old god who has been so mysterious and yet behind so many of the turmoils of the world of Azeroth. We venture into the Black Empire itself and defeat N'Zoth using the Heart of Azeroth as well as the Xal'atath, Blade of the Black Empire. And that's the video. A spooky set of villains for a spooky month. Thank you all for watching. Please be sure to subscribe, comment, like, and all that jazz. Until the next video. Bye bye.